Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the true anatomy of an entrepreneur's success. We're looking at the source material to figure out what it actually takes to push through those massive barriers when everything inside you is just screaming to stop. If you've ever started a project, launched a business, or chased a huge goal and just slammed right into a brick wall, well, this one is absolutely for you. Let's get right into it.
So think about this for a second. What if success has absolutely nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room? Seriously, what if it isn't about being the strongest or even the most naturally gifted? We've all been kind of conditioned to believe that the heavy hitters in business and life were just born with some special magical gift. But when we actually dig into the raw stories of those who make it to the top, the data completely shatters that whole myth of natural talent.
Actually, the real secret is so much simpler. It's just never giving up. Every single successful person you look up to has at some point desperately wanted to throw in the towel. They've faced brutal rejections, super public failures, heartbreak, you name it. They aren't immune to that sting. The only difference, literally the one decision that changed the game for them, is that they chose to stay in the ring. They just kept going. But you gotta wonder, why is that so rare?
Which brings us to Section 1, the abyss. The reality of failure.
All right, imagine you're digging for gold. You're out there day in and day out swinging this heavy pickaxe. Eventually, your muscles are burning, you're totally exhausted, and honestly, you're incredibly frustrated because you haven't seen a single tiny glimmer of gold. So you stop, you pack up your gear, and you walk away. But here's the absolute tragedy. You miss the gold by exactly 1 foot. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable or lack the skills, right? They fail because they quit way too early. They're completely blind to the fact that their massive breakthrough was literally just 1 strike away.
And it's really fascinating how this maps perfectly onto our modern world. One of the biggest reasons we quit is this crazy expectation we have for instant results. I mean, you go to the gym for a week, look in the mirror, and obviously nothing changes. You spend hours editing and putting up your first YouTube videos, and you get, 3 views? You take this massive leap to start a business, and on day 1, crickets, 0 customers. When we expect immediate validation for these everyday entrepreneurial steps, we just burn out. We assume the system is rigged, or we just don't have what it takes, so we drop the pickaxe.
But here is a reality check we all really need to internalize. Success grows silently. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. It's happening right beneath the surface, completely out of sight. The roots are pushing deeper even when you can't see the branches getting any taller. You have to trust that unseen growth. You gotta trust the process, even when things look totally barren up top. Moving on to Section 2, the pivot, reframing, and purpose. To actually survive the abyss, we have to recognize a massive, glaring flaw in how society views failure. We're always taught that failure is the exact opposite of success, right? Like it's this terrible thing to avoid at all costs. But an unstoppable, champion-level mindset requires a complete reframe. Failure is a part of success. It's a baked-in, necessary ingredient. Every single mistake you make is actively teaching you something you literally couldn't have learned any other way. Every harsh rejection, that's just building the thick skin you'll need for the next level. If you're failing, it just means you're actually trying. Every setback is quite literally setting you up for a comeback. So, when you inevitably hit that brick wall, and you will, you really have to pause and ask yourself, why did I even start this in the first place? Who am I actually doing this for? Is it for your family, financial freedom, or maybe you're trying to solve a problem you care deeply about? What kind of life do you actually want? You've got to reconnect with that core purpose. Because, let me tell you, a clear why is always going to be stronger than your best excuses. When your purpose is crystal clear, you naturally become unstoppable. There's a quote from the source material that hits the nail right on the head here. Champions aren't people who never fall. They're people who always get back up. I love that because it completely strips away this toxic illusion of perfection. Look, life is going to knock you down again and again and again. That's just a guarantee when you're an entrepreneur. The only question that actually matters is whether you'll make the choice to stand up one more time. Every epic comeback starts with that one simple decision. That takes us right into Section 3, the climb, resilience in action. Now, here is a massive sigh of relief for anyone out there feeling totally overwhelmed right now. You do not have to move at lightning speed every single day. Instead, look at the sheer power of micro progress. Read just 1 page, write a single paragraph, exercise for 10 minutes. Honestly, some days just making one tiny step forward is more than enough. Progress is progress no matter how incredibly small it feels. As long as you're moving forward, you are winning. Leaning on these micro steps is exactly what keeps you in the game on those days when your tank is completely on empty.
Let's ground this in a quick analogy. Imagine two climbers staring up at this massive, jagged, intimidating mountain. The first climber starts out super strong, but pretty quickly realizes just how steep and exhausting the terrain actually is. The path is just too difficult, the air is thinning out, and the peak looks impossibly far away. So, tragically, that first climber calls it quits halfway up and turns back around. But then you have the second climber, and they make a very different choice. Now, they are just as exhausted, just as sore, and breathing just as heavily as the first one. But this climber keeps going. They move slowly, the progress is intensely, brutally painful, but they do it, one agonizing step at a time. They literally refuse to look up at that massive peak, and instead they just focus on putting one foot in front of the other for hours on end. They just refuse to stop. And guess what? Hours later, that second climber reaches the top. It proves such a powerful point. The view up there wasn't reserved for the strongest person. It was earned by the one who simply refused to stop climbing. The summit wasn't just handed to someone with better genetics or the fanciest gear. It was earned 100% through relentless, unstoppable persistence. Finally, we arrive at Section 4, the summit, the aftermath. You know, when you finally hit that impossible goal, a really funny thing happens. The outside world is going to look at your success and go, wow, you were so lucky. They will completely dismiss your victory as just a random stroke of good fortune. They're never going to see what it actually took to get there. They don't see the sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, the agonizing public failures, the financial sacrifices, or those countless moments where you were literally inches away from quitting. But you will know the truth. You succeeded because you endured all that unseen reality. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly vital thought. Your entrepreneurial journey, it isn't over yet. That massive breakthrough you've been working so hard for could literally be just one strike of the pickaxe away. Knowing that failure is just a required part of the process, and knowing that the summit is strictly reserved for those who refuse to quit, will you keep going?